Story 1. Trump is an idiot. Zelenskyy has been elected and enjoys popularity in his country. He does not display the signs of dictatorship. Story 2. I am so used to Trump's dishonesty that it did not surprise me. What is outraging is the way they acted in that meeting. Story 3. A manipulative leader seeks to blur the line between fact and fiction, enabling him to deceive and exploit others. Story 4. It's typical of Trump. He says one thing one day and the polar opposite the next day, yet his supporters agree with him on both days. Story 5. He'll say it again. He just said that he doesn't remember it because he thought it would change anything in today's discussions. Story 6. Trump is a liar and a Russian pawn. We should be removed from NATO, and Europe should send troops into Ukraine. Story 7. Whatever the reason, it's not good, and people need to understand that. He is lying most likely. 2. He is experiencing cognitive decline and genuinely does not remember, which is also likely. I don't know how his supporters can justify either. Story 8. Trump lies constantly. This is not new or unexpected, but it is one of many tragedies that suffering people should not have to endure. Story 9. I believe Trump is an idiot. I think our administration is a joke, and so are the people who voted for this. In short, I am upset. Story 10. I believe Donald Trump makes statements to influence others' actions. When Volodymyr Zelenskyy declined to sign, Trump labeled him a dictator. However, when Zelenskyy agreed to sign, Trump changed his stance. After Zelenskyy's public criticism from Trump and Vance, it's uncertain how Trump will refer to him now that he has left without signing. Story 11. Dementia combined with being a pathological liar creates a poor combination for a bus driver, let alone a president. Story 12. Meh, it was probably just the ketamine talking. Let he who hasn't threatened the sovereignty of another nation while under the influence cast the first stone. Wait, wasn't there a German individual with the same issue? Story 13. Good news. Big Brother will be increasing its chocolate rations from 2 grams to 3 grams a week. Rejoice. Story 14. It is sad to see the overwhelming support from the right for Israel while complaining about funding Ukraine. Do people realize that both are defending against attackers? I am not a fan of any war, but if we fund one, there is no moral standing to fund the other. This also applies to those who support Ukraine but act shocked about Israel. I am not a fan of what is happening there, but it is no secret they have taken significant action against Hamas. Additionally, everyone, especially conservative groups, we are not funding these wars out of moral support or righteousness. We are building soft power to control sectors of the world. We are generating goodwill with countries so they buy from us, rely on us, and remain compliant to us. We are certainly looking out for ourselves, but there is a line one can cross to be reckless, like some political figures. Don't get me wrong, I oppose Hamas and Putin. The United States has nothing to gain from Russia, so why assist them indirectly? Story 15. He did not deny it. Notice how quickly he moved on from the question. He was trying to be dismissive and sarcastic. Story 16. It was a lie. He knows he said it but refuses to admit it. He has his own truth and never admits when he is wrong. He learned that from Roy Cohn. Story 17. That was yesterday. The situation involving Trump, Ukraine, and Russia has escalated to a whole new level since then, making his comments seem perfectly tame and normal. Story 18. Zelenskyy has been fighting to keep his country united and remains on the battlefield even when others encourage him to seek safety. That is not a sign of a dictator. It is a sign of a leader. Story 19. Trump lies constantly, often with little reason and without any shame. This is simply him being his usual self. In an hour, he will likely deny having denied it. Story 20. Either he is a narcissistic liar or he actually has serious dementia and does not even remember his own lie. Story 21. He believes everyone is as uninformed as some political groups. Unfortunately for him, we are not, and we do not have short-term memory. Story 22. Sometimes a narcissist will lie to themselves the most in order to view themselves in the most favorable light. Story 23. It is a classic example of manipulation. Even in the face of something provable and obvious, Trump feels he can say anything and people will believe him. Sadly, this is true for about 1/3 of the population. They believe him over their own senses. Story 24. He never denied it at all. He said, "I said that? I can't believe I said that," indicating nothing about denial. He did not agree or deny being a dictator. There was no denial, just a blatant hand wave, and it goes away. Story 25. As usual, it was an ambiguous denial along the lines of, "Oh, did I say that? I don't think I would have said that." It always leads to confusion and misunderstandings. Story 26. He was trying to retract his statement. It was actually an acknowledgement that he shouldn't have said it, but he attempted to laugh it off. Trump is never going to say he was wrong or apologize. This was as close as he could get to admitting it was a stupid thing to say, or at least an attempt to appear conciliatory. Story 27. The man can't remember to use the toilet instead of soiling his pants. What makes people think he can remember what he said yesterday? Story 28. I think he genuinely believes it was the same person who signed the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement who said those words. He is truly foolish. Story 29. Well, he's not called a liar because of his critical thinking skills. Liars are liars because they tell lies. Story 30. I mean, it's a demonstrable lie. What Trump did was rude, and as a European, I am blaming the country as a whole. You all need to get your act together. This is an international embarrassment. Story 31. He might be lying, as we all know he does that. He also might not be lying, and this may just be the progression of his dementia that we know he has. Story 32. A liar lies. Is there much else to consider? The person constantly lies and claims he didn't say what he said or do what he did. Story 33. Everything he says is a lie. Today, the United States officially announced to the world that it is no longer the leader of the free world. Enjoy the chaos. Story 34. He is a pathological liar. Almost every time he opens his mouth, it is evident. This has been going on for years, yet the United States was not prudent enough to elect him anyway. Story 35. The man is such a compulsive and delusional liar that I honestly don't know if he can tell what is and isn't the truth anymore. Story 36. Unfortunately, you are not going to get any interesting answers here because 85% of Reddit already knows that Donald Trump has a negative impact on humanity. The other 15% may hold hateful or willfully ignorant views, but they are not foolish enough to fall into this trap. Story 37. How do we take Vance seriously? Remember his Never Trumper t-shirt or all the negative comments he made about Trump? And now he's third in line to President Musk and Vice President Trump? No wonder Trump wants a McMahon in his cabinet. It's turning into a wrestling debacle. Story 38. Zelenskyy had a decent response by offering to step down in exchange for peace. I am looking forward to seeing Ukraine hold free elections, and I respect their foresight in ensuring that Russia cannot declare war to hold fake elections. Story 39. The 49.1% of Americans who elected Trump as their president should be embarrassed and ashamed. If I were American, I would be. Story 40. It aligns with my expectations of Republicans. Words hold little meaning for them, so they often fail to understand their significance. They simply say whatever is necessary to suit the current argument. Their entire belief system is highly adaptable. There isn't a single Reagan Republican who believes in anything that the current MAGA ideology supports today. Story 41. The same thing crosses my mind every time he speaks or gets away with something. We are all foolish for allowing this man into office. Story 42. He expresses whatever he feels benefits him in the moment and does not care about anyone but himself. There is no need to analyze it any deeper than that. Story 43. He is either losing control or was told to calm down by his advisors because his rhetoric was not fully developed yet. Story 44. My father-in-law, a lifelong alcoholic with severe dementia who suffered a massive stroke, is significantly more coherent and consistent than Donald Trump. Story 45. Donald Trump is a pathological liar and a generally unpleasant person. He does not regard truth as important in his statements. There is very little he could do to decrease my trust in him, yet I am sure he will strive to find new ways to sink to even lower depths. This is one lie among many. It is no longer surprising. Story 46. He indirectly claimed that he never said it, which anyone who was aware during the years 2016 to 2020 should have expected. His fans clearly prefer individuals who speak negatively, assess the reaction, and then claim they were just joking if the response was unfavorable. It is one of my least favorite human behaviors, but there are people who genuinely believe that my wrong is their right. Story 47. He takes both positions on every subject, and his views simply shift to whichever one is being repeated. For example, they are claiming that he disavowed Project 2025 while he is implementing it. He called to terminate the Constitution, then claimed he didn't bother to delete the post in which he did. He said he never claimed Mexico would pay for the wall, then stated only a loser would believe Mexico would pay for the wall. He gave orders to Mike Johnson to create rumors about addressing Social Security and then came out yelling, "Don't touch it," to make it seem like he would protect it, and look where we are now. He told Mike to abandon the deal on the border so he could use it as a campaign issue. Then, the governor turned around and harmed a mother and her children in broad daylight while another politician testified that it was a good deal and he mandated they ruin it. He claimed he never met E. Jean Carroll, although there are photos of them at an event. He said the election was rigged and incited them to storm the Capitol. He knew for several weeks and suppressed the reports that proved it was not rigged. He came very close to disrespecting our flag on stage, pointed at the sky to give the impression that he is a believer, and referred to them as fools and schmucks. He hired extras to hold up signs to create the impression he was pro-union after a significant labor union endorsed the opposing candidates. He said, "I love the African American community," and appointed a postmaster general who slowed down mail service, reduced overtime, and removed equipment in their neighborhoods. He claimed the Capitol riot was peaceful and suggested it should be considered treason to not applaud him. There is not one topic on which he hasn't flip-flopped. Story 48. What do you think we are thinking? Unhinged, unfit, unreal, unintelligent. This is embarrassing and, quite frankly, putting us in harm's way. Story 49. If Trump says anything that he wants people to believe, it's a lie. If Trump says anything that he wants people to think is a joke, it's the truth. Story 50. We all heard him say it, and as always, the stain on America is full of falsehoods. It's not surprising. Most of us have known he was a problem since the 1980s. Story 51. I believe this is wildly misrepresented. He mocked the question. Did I say that? Oh my. I can't believe he said that. He was mocking the media outrage. He didn't forget or lie. He just knows it doesn't matter because he thinks he's untouchable. Story 52. Trump's brain is mush. He is just spewing out nonsense, hoping that people will take him seriously. The media is too scared to call him out on it. The countries he claims to be allied with are starting to speak up, but it's damaging their relationships. The Republicans are once again aligning themselves with Trump and Putin. Just a few months ago, they had no problem labeling Putin as a dictator and a murderer, but now they consider him their best friend. It is so sad to see this happen to America. There were so many chances to stop this from occurring. Story 53. Planned. Just as he said to Zelenskyy, "You can't come into my office and dictate to the people of America." Story 54. For about a decade, Trump has been continuously and deliberately lying for various reasons, including pressuring his followers to knowingly defend falsehoods. It is a classic tactic of an unscrupulous leader. It emotionally abuses subordinates and makes them complicit, rendering them untrustworthy as well. Story 55. A narcissist never accepts blame, even when presented with evidence. Trump would rather convince himself he could not have said that because he believes he cannot be wrong about anything. Story 56. Trump is dishonest. Everyone with knowledge recognizes that. Those who refuse to acknowledge his dishonesty are strong supporters of Trump. Story 57. This is why Vance was in that meeting. Trump was deceived twice by foreign leaders very recently and cannot even remember what he said days ago about the man he was meeting. Vance was Trump's caretaker. Story 58. The party instructed you to ignore the evidence of your own senses. It was their final and most essential command. Story 59. My thoughts on Trump denying he said anything are that there is usually a tweet or some sort of video proof that immediately contradicts his denial. Story 60. Who asks this? Generally, it is apologists desperately trying to find a justification for Trump, I think. Trump's entire history has been marked by dishonesty. Literally, his whole life. Story 61. The person spreads so many lies and half-truths that he can no longer distinguish between what he said and what he believed he said. Story 62. He lies constantly. Nothing has changed in that respect since his last term. This time, though, he has heritage backing him up. I think it will really take force to get him out. I hope former and current military and senior officers will step up to make it happen. Story 63. Donnie Dementia. He walked it back because he is afraid of the aura that Zelenskyy presents as a real president with courage. Story 64. Trump is neither thoughtful nor truthful, so I expend some effort avoiding the need to consider his simplistic vocabulary and naive view of the world. Story 65. There is a Russian trait where a person will lie to your face knowing that you cannot call them out on it. Vladimir Putin does it all the time. Story 66. Everyone thinks he is backtracking because it looks bad to label a democratically elected leader in that way, but he only denies it because he views himself as a dictator and is offended by comparisons to Zelenskyy, who genuinely cares for his people. Story 67. More lies, as usual, from Trump. I assume everything he says is a lie unless it is proven otherwise by an independent news source. Story 68. Maybe he forgets that he is saying everything on camera and online. Still, his supporters will defend him. Story 69. Nothing Trump says can be taken seriously. Everything is either a lie, slanted, or only accidentally true. Story 70. That's his method of operation. Deny it until they believe it. We Americans are in so much trouble with Trump as president. We need to unite and resist. Story 71. First, he called him a dictator and then he tried to humiliate him. That was the whole plan for his uninformed supporters. Trump stands up to dictators, is the message his followers will promote. Story 72. Nothing changed for me. He was a repugnant individual before, and he remains a repugnant individual now. It would be great if I didn't live in a country foolish enough to give him power. Story 73. A deceitful individual continues their dishonest behavior, waking up each day to carry out their mission of making life on Earth more difficult for everyone, without any particular reason. Story 74. Trump frequently makes false statements and has experienced 5 out of 6 symptoms of severe dementia for the past 10 months. Story 75. I believe it is clear evidence of his cognitive decline. Taking excessive amphetamines can lead to significant brain damage. Story 76. He is a liar and always has been. He believes this is part of the art of negotiation, but it is not. Russia is the aggressor here, and to label Zelenskyy a dictator while his Russian counterpart has been in power for decades is laughable. Trump clearly has no idea or concern about what he is saying. He simply says it to say it. I honestly hope it continues because the people I know on the right are growing tired of the way he carries himself. Story 77. Trump has a poor selective memory about events or his statements, especially when they were unwise. Story 78. Wait, are you telling me a politician lied? That's hard to believe. Next, you're going to say they lied about Hunter's laptop or COVID-19. Story 79. I believe it is concerning that many individuals identify as Americans but show more support for foreign countries like Ukraine than for our own nation. We should not intervene any further. Story 80. If you watch the video, it's clearly supposed to be a joke. He didn't actually forget he said that. That said, Trump is truly disappointing. He calls Zelenskyy a dictator but won't call Putin one. Then he had that whole Oval Office press conference with everything in his favor and still comes out looking like a weak, small man. Trump is causing damage to the United States that will take generations to repair. For a long time we were looked up to, then we were tolerated, but now we have no credibility. Any agreement isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and we are ridiculed. I try not to be overly dramatic, but we are witnessing the fall of America as a world leader. Story 81. Suspended elections, arrested political opponents, and banned 11 political parties due to alleged ties to Russia. A journalist was also arrested for speaking out against him. There is nothing dictatorial about that. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.